everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Transformers Studio Series Buzzworthy Bumblebee, Bumblebee vs Dropkick, of course inspired by the Bumblebee solo movie. Now, the main reasoning behind why I actually picked this set up, despite already previously owning these two figures, is essentially because I think the backdrop is awesome. I've always wanted a second Dropkick to actually display in the car mode, and the old reviews that I actually did of both of these figures are incredibly outdated. It was back in the days where I had awful audio, awful lighting, so I thought in a way this could almost act as a throwback review. So see this as the first throwback review for the Studio Series line, and this is actually a set that I know many of you out there are actually pleased Hasbro are reissuing, seeing as the actual car mode Dropkick is very difficult to actually pick up on his own. So this may in fact actually be the best way to actually get this guy in the collection without paying astronomical prices on the aftermarket. So without further ado, let's very quickly take a look here at the packaging. You can see we've got the original Volkswagen Beetle Bumblebee, a mold which for those of you who are a long time viewer of the channel know is something that I absolutely despise, but we'll touch base with that later on in the review. Of course, we've got the awesome car mode Dropkick Buzzworthy Bumblebee. Here at the top, we've got the Transformers Bumblebee logo, Studio Series, and then as we just spin around here to the back of the box, you can see a really cool piece of product art of both Bumblebee as well as Dropkick, and you can also see a very vague silhouette of the actual backdrop that this particular set does include. So without further ado, let's crack these open and see whether or not these figures still hold up 2 to 3 years after their initial releases. And so here we have both Bumblebee and Dropkick cracked open and out of the packaging, and for a 2-pack this is actually pretty awesome. I think the Dropkick is such a cool figure even to this date, 2 years after its original release. It's by far one of my favourite Decepticon Studio Series figures that we've gotten so far, but that Bumblebee definitely is still as atrocious as ever, especially in robot mode, but we'll get down to that in just a second. Very quickly taking a look here at the included backdrop. Of course, this is inspired by the Battle of the Docks, I believe is what they're calling it on the packaging. This is essentially where Bumblebee takes Dropkick and basically obliterates him, wraps him up in all the chains when he transforms, pulls him apart, and literally the poor guy does disintegrate into billions of pieces. But this is a really cool looking diorama, of course very faithful to what we actually see towards that final act of the Bumblebee movie, and would actually be a great backdrop to include with maybe a Shatter figure. It would be really cool if we could in fact actually get an updated car mode version of Shatter, as of course the original version was also atrocious, and then of course an actual updated version of VW Bug Bumblebee. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see for the purposes of this review, considering the backdrop is so awesome. I shall in fact actually leave it here in the review station. But kicking things off, let's firstly take a look at the Studio Series number 18 Bumblebee. Now, of course, this was in fact one of the first Bumblebee figures I believe we got for the solo movie, and it was indeed based on concept art. In the movie, he was slightly altered, of course. He didn't have the door wings, and he didn't have this huge back kibble that we've got going on here for the legs. So I really am hoping that maybe we can get a version 2 of this guy sometime in the near future, as I think if there are any Studio Series figures of which are in a dire need of an upgrade, it would definitely be this guy. But if you were to in fact actually remove the wings and the back kibble of the legs, I think the details are for the most part pretty decent. Now, you can see in regards to the face sculpt, this looks exceptional. This looks exactly how he appeared in the movie, so Hasbro certainly can do accuracy with this guy. It's just if they're willing to actually revisit him, as even the Masterpiece figure was also based on extremely early concept art. But you can see some very nice looking paint apps going on there for the face sculpt, the Autobot insignia placed, which is quite surprising considering how puny this guy actually is. You can see here we do in fact actually get the real chest of the VW Bug, which looks great looking detail going on here for the arms. You can see some really nice looking sculpt work here for the torso region, very accurate to what we actually see in the film. And then of course, as we take a look here towards the legs, it's basically a train wreck from here down onwards. So it would have been great if they could have found a way to have actually reversed the wheel into the back of the leg, and then subsequently found some sort of way to distribute the back kibble. Maybe if they could have found a way to have actually utilized this as the heel spur, that would have been pretty cool. And of course, we've got basically the entire shell of the vehicle mode just compressed here on the back, which whilst is compressed fairly nicely, of course is quite lazy engineering. You've also got the side of the vehicle, including the door wings here, which once again do not look the best. Maybe if he actually had door wings in the movie, I probably wouldn't have an issue with this, but considering that it's very inaccurate to the design, it really is something that I wish Hasbro could indeed revisit. Now, articulation surprisingly is actually pretty decent, so we do get a ball joint here at the head, which is very stiff. This can look up and down, tilt side to side very slightly, and of course can look left to right. We do in fact get a hinge joint here at the shoulder due to transformation, but the arms are on ball joints, so it can hinge out to the sides, rotate forwards and backwards, as well as rotate here at the elbow. All of the joints surprisingly are very stiff across the board for these figures. We do get a 90-degree bend there at the elbow, no form of wrist rotation, but the waist is in fact rotatable. The legs are on ball joints, so can kick forwards that far as well as back to that far, out to the sides, rotation here at the upper thigh, 90-degree bend there at the knee, and the foot can in fact actually pivot forwards and backwards due to transformation, as well as rock side to side, which is super awesome. Now, this guy also, considering his very small scale, did in fact actually include quite a considerable amount of accessories. I believe the most accessories we've actually seen seen for a Studio Series Deluxe so far. So included is indeed this arm attachment. Now this is very faithful to the movie. You can see some fantastic mechanical detailing going on here, where of course the actual arm would split and this section here would shoot straight out. So that looks really, really interesting. If we actually remove this part of the forearm, we can in fact bring in the Stinger Blaster that we see Bumblebee use in the movie. It does take quite a bit of force to actually peg that on there, but you can see pretty nice looking details going on here. You can definitely pick out the fingers, of course, where it would wrap around the front of the barrel, much like the movie, and they have in fact picked that out in silver. And there is indeed some nice gunmetal, and you can actually remove the face piece here, so you can just slide this section here clean off, which reveals a very unsightly look here for Bumblebee. But then we can bring in the battle mask, actually house this here over the top, and there you've got Bumblebee equipped for battle against both Shatter, Dropkick, and of course Blitzwing. So that definitely is really cool, and it's in fact, I believe, one of the first interchangeable faceplates that we've gotten across the board for Studio Series Deluxes. So once again, this figure definitely has some very good positives going for it, but ultimately the inaccuracies majorly let this guy down. Now, before we get into transformation and the alternate modes, we'll very quickly take a look here at the star of the show, in my opinion, Dropkick. Now this guy will no doubt be why many of you are actually purchasing this pack, as originally I believe he flew off shelves, quite literally. I know here, at least in the UK, he had a shelf life for roughly about 3 to 4 weeks, and then after that he was gone. You literally could not find this guy anywhere for the regular retail price point, and for good reason too. This is such a fantastic figure and is a marked improvement when in comparison to the actual helicopter version that we got released around a similar time to that VW Bug Bumblebee. You can see in regards to detail, the face sculpt just looks astonishing. I'm a massive fan of the Michael Bay designs. To see Travis Knight give this guy essentially a Bay design was just so awesome. I think he looks really, really impressive. You can see a really nice smoky gunmetal use there for the mouthpiece. Of course, we've got those incredibly red beady eyes. Sadly, a little bit of paint drip there on the left eye, but other than that, you can see some lovely mechanical detailing going on here for this top section. I really like how the wheels of the vehicle mode actually do in fact compress into the shoulder section. That is just great engineering. Of course, we've got the door wings going on here for the side. The mechanical detailing going on for the arms looks fantastic. You can see very nice looking sculpt work for the shoulder piece, nice gunmetal there used for the forearm, and the attention to detail for this torso plate is just incredible. It would have been great if we could have gotten maybe some dry brushing or some silver details just to pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt, but other than that, you can see that looks glorious. As we just turn our attention here down to the lower section, the proportions on this guy all incredibly accurate. Sadly, they used some faux pieces. These are in fact supposed to be the tail lights, where in fact the real tail lights, I believe, are stored away here in the backpack, but that's definitely not a big deal at all. You can see some nice looking detail as well as paintwork going on here for the feet, and we do in fact actually get included his I like the way they pop blaster gun. Now this has been sculpted really, really nicely. Of course, he used this in order to essentially vaporize humans, which was such a cool sequence. You can see some fantastic looking sculpt work on there. I also believe he uses it to gun down Bumblebee when he dies for the first time in that solo movie, but really, really nice attention to detail. Of course, to remove it, you simply just pull this off, take the fist and fold that out. But overall, such a fantastic figure. Even here with this reissue, I think Dropkick has never looked better. Now, in regards to his articulation, once again, ball joint at the head, so this can look left to right as well as up and down ever so slightly. We do in fact get ball joints here at the shoulders, which can rotate the full 360, hinge out to the sides, rotation here at the elbow, 90-degree bend there at the elbow. Sadly, no form of waist rotation due to transformation, but the legs can kick forwards that far to a great degree, back to that far, out to the sides, rotation at the thigh, 90-degree bend there at the knee, and then finally the foot can pivot forwards and backwards due to transformation. So overall, I think that Dropkick here is an absolute astonishing figure, and for those of you who unfortunately weren't able to pick this guy up the first time round, then I would definitely recommend in trying to track this set down, even if you actually sell on that Bumblebee, just to get Dropkick, as I really do think he's one of the best deluxe Studio Series figures that we've gotten so far. And for a very quick robot mode side-to-side comparison, let's of course bring in his packmate Bumblebee, just so we can see how these stack up. So pretty faithful in terms of scale. I do believe Dropkick was perhaps slightly bigger in the movie, considering it was a triple changer he converted into a helicopter as well, but for the most part, in terms of Studio Series representation, I don't think these guys scale too badly at all. So turning to transformation here for Bumblebee, if my memory serves me correctly, this guy wasn't so much complex and was more fiddly due to him being of an incredibly small scale. So to begin with, you're going to want to turn your attention here to the back of the door wings, just fold these sections out, and of course snap these pieces here into place. You'll see throughout the conversion that really and truly this guy was very, very shell form alike in regards to conversion. You'll then want to take this backpack here, detach this here from the tab, which is in fact here at the top of his back. We can then proceed to fold all of this out, snap that into place, and of course snap that here into place. You'll then want to come here to the chest pieces, just pull these sections out, rotate all of this up like so. We'll then turn our attention here to the legs. You'll then want to take these, shift these inwards, and of course come here to this side and repeat the same process. So just shift these in. That will then allow you to fold these panels here down, rotate at the waist all the way around, just like so. And then I believe we can in fact actually bring these two halves together, as if I'm correct, you're then going to want to shoot these here to the back, take these, and in fact actually take these here and hinge these sections down, just like so. And then if we come here to this, you can see we've got two tabs here and here that would in fact actually slide into this slot. So bring this all the way up and over, snap both of these here into place, just like so. And once that's completed, we can then take the rear of the vehicle, slide this up, and if it does detach, just realign that appropriately. We can then bring this here all the way up. You'll then want to take this section, align this with the front of the vehicle, so where these headlights are, so just snap that there into place. We can then take these panels here, shoot them into the back, just like so. I'm really hoping this figure doesn't begin to fight me, as I remember, he's very fiddly to actually convert. We'll then want to take these forearms here, bring these in, collapse the wrists in, just like so, and repeat the same process. We can then take these, snap these sections in as well, proceed to fold down the wrists, and then for some of the final touches is just essentially aligning the vehicle mode up appropriately. So just snapping all of that in, ensuring that all of this stays tabbed in. And there we've got Bumblebee more or less fully transformed up into his Volkswagen Beetle, the first live-action movie Volkswagen Beetle Bumblebee that we actually ever gotten. And judging from the most recent set photos from Transformers Rise of the Beast, it is unfortunate to say that he has in fact resorted back to a Camaro. I personally don't really mind, I've always loved the Camaro, but the VW Bug is most certainly iconic to this character, and if I were to choose to display this guy in either mode, it would definitely be this, as I think Hasbro did a fantastic job. You can see, in regards to the detail, this was in fact licensed by Volkswagen, so it's incredibly faithful to the movie. You can see the headlights look great, this front bumper section, the proportions I would think looks really nice. You can see that one side view mirror with the black window wipers painted, and then as we just spin around here to the back, you've got the tail lights. Sadly, some inconsistencies with the tabbing. That's mainly just down to me being lazy, though, as of course he can in fact actually stay together pretty nicely, but he is an absolute pain to do so. I believe these transparent pegs are indeed supposed to actually tab in to the side of the thighs, but I'm just not going to force it, as you'll more than likely explode. But definitely pretty nice attention to detail. You can see some nice VW logos there in the actual wheels itself, so overall a pretty nice looking alt mode. And then we turn our attention to Dropkick. Now this guy was most certainly complex. For a Studio Series Deluxe, I actually revisited the transformation before doing this review just to sort of learn the steps, as he's actually really intricate. So to begin with, you're going to want to come here to the wrists and essentially fold these in, take these panels here, fold these sections out to the sides, and of course repeat the same process. We can then come here to this back section, fold all of this out, and I actually thought this concealed incredibly well. We can then take these panels here, fold these sections out to the sides. You're then going to want to come to the front chest piece, shift this forward just to sort of detach this entire mechanism. So bring this up and over. We can then take the head, and you're going to want to poke this section through, rotate this all the way around until this does actually snap into place, and once completed you can essentially take the windscreen and snap that there into place. Now what you'll want to do is take this torso piece, detach this, which will then allow you to take this and essentially pull this away from the body. It's held in via that clip, so just detach this and then turn your attention here to the legs. You're going to want to take this panel, fold this out, pull this out, rotate this around, and then snap that into place. We can then take the feet, bring these around, of course come to this side, repeat the same process, shift this around and down, snap that there into place, just align everything up appropriately. Now this is definitely where things can become rather convoluted in my opinion, as there are various different pins that all of which do very different things. So if I am correct, I believe that this here was supposed to shift forwards, and then it was just a matter of actually rotating these wheels in, just like so, so that we're left with something along the lines of this. And the main mission was to essentially actually compress all of this in first before proceeding to look at the back. Now this is actually easier said than done, as this also is very fiddly to actually do. So just hinge all of this in, snap that in, and you will in fact hear a really nice crunchy click, which will then allow the shoulders to actually peg into the hood of the vehicle mode. And once that's done, from here it's pretty straightforward. So you can see two tabs here and here that shall in fact peg into these transparent slots. So just bring this here up just like so. Line those tabs up, and you can see that we've got a tiny slot there that this tab here will in fact slide into, so just snap that into place. Come to this side, and you guys guessed it, repeat the same process, so snap that in there, come to this side, snap that section in there, ensure that the feet are in fact shifted forwards, as now you're going to want to bring these arms down and over, and there's a tiny slot that will in fact peg there into this tab, so just snap that in there, come to this side and snap this one into place, and then finally just compress the doors on both sides. And there you've got Dropkick fully transformed up into also his awesome looking vehicle mode. So as I'm sure you guys will all be able to agree with me in saying, this is fantastic. Honestly, it's a transformation that is truly worthy of being complex, as it results in a very awesome robot mode and then an equally as awesome vehicle form. You can see in regards to the proportions, I think this looks absolutely fantastic. The attention to detail really is mesmerizing. You can see here for the front section of the vehicle, we've got really nice real detailing. I love this engine piece that we've got going on here for the front. You can see all of which has been picked out in a very nice metallic silver, and you can also see some fantastic sculpt work here actually on the underside of this section. As we turn here from the side, sadly the front two wheels have got these awful blue pegs, which I really wish that maybe they could have painted over or actually found a way to make them pinned, as I believe these ones here are indeed pinned in. But you can see for the most part very convincing looking vehicle mode. You wouldn't actually be able to tell where the arms or the legs are in fact stored due to the complex conversion. As we turn here to the back, very nice looking tail lights, actually all of which have been picked out and painted. You can see the exhaust pipes here. I love the glossy black that the entire hood's been coated in, and the transparent plastic, whilst isn't my preferred smoky, I don't think looks too bad at all. But once again, it would have been nice if they could have actually tinted these just to actually conceal some of the joints that we've got going on there. But the vehicle can in fact roll incredibly smoothly along the ground whilst doing so, and due to the way the wheels have actually been pegged in, he makes a very menacing noise when actually gliding along the ground, so hopefully Bumblebee will be able to hear him when he is indeed nearby. But just taking a look here at both Dropkick and Bumblebee, you can see that the difference in scale is definitely warranted by real life representation. So this is in fact a lot bigger than the VW Beetle, but I think it is all of which incredibly accurate to the movie. And if we actually bring this in, I do believe this was supposed to store via actually hooking over this section, so you can see you can indeed actually peg the blaster there if you were so inclined to do so. So overall, I definitely think both of these guys look fantastic in their alt modes. So some final thoughts here for this Transformers Studio Series Buzzworthy Bumblebee Volkswagen B versus Dropkick 2-pack. Overall, I actually think for those of you who don't own any of these figures, you're going to really enjoy this, especially where the Dropkick figure is concerned. The Bumblebee certainly isn't terrible by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely not the worst Studio Series figure that we've ever gotten, but I do definitely think that it sort of makes it onto that list, just as the inaccuracies are incredibly visible. But that was all mainly down to the simple fact that Hasbro were basing this on early concept art, and for whatever reason, maybe they wanted to soft reboot Bumblebee and actually defer from his appearance from the Bayverse. They did decide to scrap the door wings, meaning that this figure ultimately suffered as a consequence of that. But I do think some of the details in the bot mode are really nice. For me, it's the VW bug which really shines, and that has always been the mode that I've actually stored this particular character in. But then as we take a look at Dropkick, a vast improvement over the helicopter version in my opinion, and this guy, as mentioned throughout the review, is in fact incredibly rare to actually pick up now. So this particular set actually may be the best way to get this guy into the collection. I think in regards to bot mode, Dropkick looks awesome. The transformation very complex, much like some of the older ROTF figures, of course this time at a much smaller scale, considering that we are dealing with the Studio Series. But the vehicle mode I think looks great, the plastic all feels great, the accessories are really nice, and I actually think the backdrop is a very nice companion piece to actually display alongside these characters. So with all that being said, if you don't own any of them, or maybe you don't have Dropkick and you want the best way to actually get him into the collection without paying astronomical prices on the aftermarket, then I would definitely recommend this set. But for those of you who already own these two figures, then you're definitely not getting nothing new here. They are exactly the same as the previous versions, but it is nice to see that all of the joints, all of the paint apps, as well as all of the accessories are identical to their previous releases. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I also have an upcoming review of Clunker B versus Barricade, so be sure to stay tuned for that review, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.